What's up, everybody? Welcome to the end of 2019. Well, I'm actually recording this mid-December, but I'll probably publish it near the end. And I got no plan for what I'm about to say. I just thought I'd try and spontaneously reflect on the year in some way that may be helpful to somebody. Because this was a tough year for me mentally. 2018 was a tough year for me in terms of my life. This year was much easier on me. My business went well, my health improved, I got married. There was a lot of good things that happened this year. What was tough for me mentally was watching what appeared to be the deterioration of my species. I've always really walked a careful line between pessimism and optimism. I've always tried to be realistic. And these days it's almost impossible to do. I get my news from Facebook or wherever the internet, sends me information, and somehow algorithms determine what information it thinks I want to hear. So I don't know if I'm getting an accurate picture. I've given up on hope that I could possibly even have an accurate picture at this stage. But we've seen lots of things that make me very pessimistic about the human race in general. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think some other people may be feeling that too. And where I plan to go with this feeling and hopefully sort of turn it around so it doesn't kind of ruin my life. If you're someone like me, if you care about people, if humans are an interesting species to you, if you are kind of invested in human success, you want people to do well, you want your loved ones to have a good life, you want your children to grow up in a great world, then maybe over the last couple of years you've been kind of getting a little bit depressed about the state of affairs as you watch the world. I was just watching something by Sam Harris. He talks about, basically every generation feels this way. Every generation feels like they're on the brink of disaster. And sometimes they genuinely were, like, say, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Those guys really were on the brink of disaster. Whereas us, it's hard to say. It looks like we are if you look at the science of climate change, overpopulation, just the bizarre political choices that the big power countries are making and so on. That could be perceived as being on the brink. I certainly am under the impression that we're only a few generations away from extinction. I don't know if it's accurate. I've lost all faith in media now. So I don't know. I can't even really trust scientific journals anymore. It's getting to that point. I'm seeing just too much junk science slipping through the gaps. I don't know what to trust anymore. So if you're like me, you may have been, losing faith, getting a bit worried, just a restless feeling of anxiety, like what the fuck, where are we going? This can't be good. I want to have children, I want them to have children, what am I setting them up for? And particularly when you're someone like me and you're in a line of work that's deliberately designed to improve the way people function. I have a mission to make the world more confident. I coach people 10, 12 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a week is spent just in coaching sessions where I fucking break my brain doing my very best to take that person up a level of confidence. And most of the time succeed somewhat. But over the last year especially, I've felt like I'm trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. Oh, got my dinner recurring on me. I can help one person improve their life and that will improve the lives of the people they touch, but there are billions of people out there and gosh, so many of them are insecure, aren't they? I just recently allowed myself to be dragged into some online comments-based debate on Facebook again. I've got to quit Facebook, it's just terrible. And basically I was debating with people why it's wrong to teach your children that killing animals is fun. Now, I don't mean that you can't kill animals for meat or for managing pest control or whatever, but these people thought it was funny to teach their kid to kill animal in a thrilling, fun way. And I was like, how do you not have the basic understanding of human psychology? If you teach a young child to be cruel to animals, you're basically 1/3 of the way to making them a psychopath. I mean, some of these people are actually teaching their kids to set animals on fire, and they thought that that was funny. I'm like, well, fire setting is another third of psychopathy. So once that kid starts wetting the bed, you've got the dark triad going. You basically built the next fucking ruthless psycho. And they didn't get it. They were calling me a snowflake and calling me weak for pointing out that their parenting was just fucking awful. It was awful parenting. By any measure, any sort of basic common sense or scientific measure, teaching a kid to hurt animals for fun is a dumb idea. And this was just, for me, this was a micro sample of things I've been witnessing all year long, of humans just being really kind of stupid. Like, shockingly stupid. You know, the anti-vaxxers. You know, we've got people, take what's happening in the Samoa at the moment. You know, dozens of people are dying from the measles, primarily, in fact, only because of the anti-vaccine movement. And really it's down to like this one person in Samoa who is promoting it viciously. And I thought, why am I seeing this? We're the species that can put people on the moon. We're the species that can build a bridge across an ocean. You know, we're the species that have organized ourselves into communities of millions that function reasonably well. We've civilized ourselves. No other animal on the planet can do what we can do. How is it that within the same species of Neil deGrasse Tyson and Sam Harris and Van Gogh, we have people who think it's funny to light animals on fire? How are we in the same category? You know, and so this was kind of getting me down over the years, especially this year. I guess it just, I don't know, with Trump and everything, it kind of seemed exaggerated. It seemed like I was seeing more and more of this. You know, all these people who are in denial about climate change and stuff. I was just seeing more and more of this kind of bizarre human psychology. It just didn't make sense to me. You know, these are the same people I went to school with. We all learn the same stuff. How did we diverge? And I'm not even saying I'm right. I'm just saying, how are we so different in our beliefs? How is it that I look at scientific method and go, that makes sense, and a fellow human, just like me, looks at it and goes, nah, I feel something, so I'm going to go with that. I struggled with it, and I especially struggled with the amount of harm, you know, and it's not just on a global scale. I see people in my life, individuals, making very self-sabotaging decisions. I mean, it's normal and human to make little mistakes and procrastinate and fart around, but I saw people ruin their lives for just the avoidance of a little bit of discomfort. And it just boggled my mind. It just seems so irrational. So I actually got into quite a dark place this year. Like I said, it was a hard year for me mentally in terms of my relationship with the rest of the human race. It was difficult for me. And I even got to the point where I was looking to physics to understand it. You know, Dan Brown's latest book, I think it's his latest book, Origins, came out like 2017, introduced me to a theory by Jeremy something or other at Harvard, I think, where life is actually a function of entropy. So entropy is that everything is, you know, energy is constantly spreading out, constantly annihilating. And the theory was that life forms, you know, life like us, organisms formed because we actually serve entropy better. Basically, you can spread energy out just by itself, but if you put energy, clump it together and set it with the mission to spread energy out, it does a much more efficient job. So a human spreads energy a lot more than just atoms floating around by themselves. You know, a tree absorbs sunlight and projects infrared or something, I don't know, but it's just this efficient way of spreading energy around. And so there's this theory that that's why life exists. You know, where did we come from? The answer is, well, laws of physics essentially created us. The reason I bring up this rather weird side topic is because it was the first time I got some sort of sensible answer to explain why humans are so destructive. Why is it that we've got the tools and the information we need to be very creative and to conserve our resources and to get along very well with each other, but we don't do it? Why do we have that opportunity and forego it? We could be very loving and kind towards each other. We've got the resources and everything we need to make it so that nobody has to do any sort of shitty job that they don't like. And we could all just be having fun and being creative and doing whatever we want and exploring the world together. And we just don't. We don't do it. We do quite the opposite. Most people are in shitty jobs that they hate, in countries that are poorly run, surrounded by people who are bickering with each other and polluting all the while. It doesn't really make sense until I considered this idea of entropy. We are working very well together to be as destructive as possible. We may in fact possibly wipe out all life on this planet, which would be like the ultimate act of entropy, to basically just wipe a planet clean. That would be really spreading the energy out. That would be really annihilating the atoms, you know. And this isn't the end of the story, but this is where I started getting to. I'm like, okay, I can finally make my peace with human self-sabotage and destructive behavior and cruelty and stupidity and ignorance. Actually, our cause isn't to be intelligent, our cause is to annihilate, and we're doing that very fucking well, you know. We've already wiped out most of the species. There's only a few left to go. We're doing pretty well with that. So I got there, and that was only a few months ago. I was sitting there and feeling pretty fucking awful. Well, not awful, I was feeling apathetic. I was starting to stop caring about people. Not the people close to me or the people I work with, but just the human race in general. I was starting to go, maybe I should just let it burn, kind of thing. And over the last month, and as I move into 2020, I realized, well, I can't stop there. That's not just is it kind of miserable, but it just doesn't seem like the best place for me to stop. I absolutely have no intention to stop coaching and working with people and helping them improve their lives. So I have to reconcile my belief system with that intention. How can I keep helping people if I've lost faith in the human race completely? And I realized the problem I had, and this is where I might be able to help some people who have the same feeling as me. The problem I had is I was viewing the human race as an entire group, as one species. And that hurt because the species is only as fast as its slowest runner. So all the people out there who are being destructive, the kind of parents who teach their kids to harm animals, or the people who are anti-vaccine or anti-science, and the people who are greedy in the corporate world and destroy the planet just to make a few bucks and so on, all these people, you know, the human race is only as good as those people. We're only as good as the greedy and the stupid and the nasty and the psychopathic, the narcissists and the ignoramuses. You know, it doesn't matter how many great achievers and beautiful artists and everything we've got, because we're really judged on our slowest player. You know, I believe one person, oh God, I can't remember who it was, it might have been one of the Beatles, said you can judge how well a country's doing by how well it treats its prisoners. And that's kind of what came to my mind, is essentially the human race can only be judged by its worst people. I know that's a very judgmental thing for me to say, but I have to be honest. I think it's horrible to be like that. If you're the kind of person who puts their needs, their instant gratification needs, above the well-being of other people, I think you're worse than other people are. You know, the people who don't do that. People who are kind of at least a little bit considerate and kind, and kind of people who are looking for the best long-term solution rather than just short-term instant gratification. I think those are better people, really. And I have to be honest about that. And that's when I started to realize, well, the human race, looking at it as an entire species, is not accurate. It's not an accurate way to look at it. If I want to make my peace with this, I have to look at humans as individuals, one at a time. In fact, I need to zoom in even further. And this is again where quantum physics sort of helped me. what I love about quantum physics and scientific method in general, especially with, biology and physics, is that if we want to understand something, we have to look at it in more and more detail. We have to zoom in, get the microscope out, look at it down at its most core structure. The further down we get, the more we understand why it functions that way and how it functions. And the way I translate that is, rather than looking at the whole human species and getting bummed out about how greedy and short-sighted we are in general, I can actually zoom down and find those individuals, which is what I've been doing already. I mean, I'm very careful in who my friends are, and even more careful, I'd say, with who my clients are, who I work with as a coach. Those people are carefully vetted and qualified. I have to really like you to want to work with you. And these people are definitely exceptional. These people impress me. These people do more good than harm, and then I help them accelerate that. I help them do more excellence than harm. And they constantly teach me how to be better myself. As I witness and intervene with their lives, I'm forced to learn lessons about myself and work on my own behavior and try to do more good myself. And I realize whenever I'm in a coaching session with someone like that, I forget all that resentment I have towards the human race. I forget all that apathy and that fear I have about where we're going, that kind of, my God, we're running towards the edge of the cliff and we just seem to keep running faster. And I just have this one person who's just a shining exception to that. They're somebody I'm not going to have to worry about as contributing to that overall problem. They're actually a counterforce, a counteragent to that. And then I started looking beyond that. You can look on, say you're on YouTube and you're searching around. There's some videos that have the theme of giving you faith in the human race kind of thing, heroic things. And there's just these compilations of people really going out of their way to be good people. And there's a lot of them. I was like, I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't looked for it. And there's a metaphor in there. I had to look for it. And once I looked for it, there was actually plenty. See, media is based on shock and awe, so most of what you're exposed to is negative, but you have to kind of request to see the positive, but it's there. And there's a lot of it, and all the time that I was bogged down, ruminating and reviewing and arguing with people who are in the negative space, I wasn't looking for the others. And once I started looking for the others, I found them. Now, I've already done this in my life quite a lot. I guess I kind of just forgot about it, or maybe my brain was overwhelmed by the algorithms of Google and Facebook, and they got into my head and force-fed me just all the political arguments and all the racist hatred and all the parents teaching their kids to set frogs on fire and all the shit that somehow the algorithm knew it would wind me up, and it found me and it wound me up. Because of my business, I'm on the internet a lot, and so I'm exposed and vulnerable. And it took me, I guess I had to reduce my ego to realize I'm being manipulated, and I have to do something about it. So in 2020, my aim is to look for the good, to find it, and to boost it. To find people who are doing good stuff and reach out to them and say, please keep doing more of that. I'm impressed. Thank you for doing that. For no other reason, just to give them a nudge and to keep going more in that direction. Rather than fighting against the bad, the ignorant, the greedy, the needy, I'll fight for the good. Fight for the kind and compassionate and the assertive and the confident. And try to give them boosters so that they're supported and encouraged to keep doing what they're doing. Now, that doesn't actually guarantee that they'll be able to reverse the tide. We may still go extinct very soon, or there may be a world war or something. We've already crossed a few tipping points, I believe, and according to the latest scientific reports on climate change, who knows, it might be too late. But it's not too late for individuals. It's not too late for those of us who are alive now to live in a good way and to be good people. as I grow older, I used to have a very moral relativistic kind of philosophy around good and evil. I always thought there's really no such thing as good and evil. There's just subjective viewpoints and preferences. But lately I've been thinking much more about the idea of well-being, about how much life thrives and how enjoyable life is. And I was like, well, when you actually start with those prerequisites, then good and evil becomes very clear and actually quite objective. You can see that somebody teaching their kid to light frogs on fire is objectively a bad thing to do. And somebody getting out of their car and stopping traffic so that an old lady can cross the road is objectively a good thing to do. And there is a way to divide and sort these things out. And that way you can actually find the good and promote it and encourage it. So that's my plan for 2020, is to shake off the kind of depressive cloud that was forming over me as I just fell out of love with the human race. And realize I've been tricked into only seeing a portion of them, a spectrum from stupid through to evil. And I'm only seeing part of the picture, and the other part of the picture may actually be bigger than I thought it was. There may actually be a lot of good out there, or at least sort of good neutral, where they're not doing too much harm, which is the most I'd ever ask of somebody. And if I can find those people and help them dial it up from a 3 to a 4, or a 7 to an 8, or all the way to a 10, that's the best thing I can possibly do with my life. And that's the most productive thing I can do about the evil that bothers me as well. I can't fight against the evil. All I do is give it something to resist against and wind it up. And as I've seen that I get so much whenever I speak out against things that I think are hateful or wrong or harmful, all I get is hate and harm in return. I'm not met with love or consideration when I do that, and who knows, maybe that's my approach. Maybe I'm too direct or ruthless with my feedback, or maybe I come across, or maybe I am suffering from some sort of superiority complex or ego that infiltrates my work and riles people up. I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing that. But what I do know is my time is much better spent helping good people be great, helping great people be excellent. And so that's going to be my focus in 2020. If you guys have any ideas on how I can do that, how I can better do that, what I should do more of, what I should do less of, what I should keep doing, please let me know. I'm always open to feedback. One thing to be prepared for interacting with me in 2020 is I'm going to have zero tolerance for the bad now. If someone comes at me with hate or vitriol, vengeance, or even just raging out of their pain, I am going to ignore them. And it's not because I don't like them or I've lost love for them. It's because I need to savor that energy and use it for the people who are going to turn into good. I can't help someone go from evil to bad. I want to help people go from good to great, So when the people who contact me, as I get sometimes a bit of hate mail and especially nasty comments on certain YouTube videos and stuff like that, I spent way too much time trying to help them come to a more loving place. It was not time well spent, and so I won't be doing much of that in the future. And so I'll ask for your patience and tolerance. Those of you who disagree with me, please let me know. Disagreement is fine, but those of you who come at me with, with your little insults and your rage and your hate, I'm just not going to respond, or at least that's my pledge, is to try not to. And I hope you'll find some other way to move forward without interacting with me. To those of you who are doing good, to those of you who go out every day and you do your best to try to be helpful, you're looking for opportunities. I don't mean the people pleasers, because God, they're the most selfish of all. I mean the people who are genuinely interested in making the world a better place, not just for themselves, but for anybody that they can. They have that drive to okay, this could be 1 point better, I'm going to make it 1 point better. 2 points better. Those of you out there, and I know it's hard, you might feel like you're pushing against the tide. I certainly do. Please just keep going, right? There might only be a few of us doing this work, and so we're going to have to work extra hard. We have to pick up the slack for those who aren't. I know that sounds egotistical and superior for me to say they're part of some sort of heroic group that are doing the good work while everybody else is being lazy or whatever. But if I'm wrong, I'm not seeing evidence of that. I am seeing a lot of people who are just looking out for number one. I am seeing a lot of people who are happy for others to be harmed. I'm seeing people who are stuck in old-fashioned ways of thinking that are definitely harmful, immeasurably unreasonable, inaccurate, and refusing to budge because they don't want to be uncomfortable, or because they want to stick with the tribe, or because, I don't know, they just like lashing out at people, you know. There are a lot of those people, and I'm willing to say I judge them. I do. They could be doing better with their lives. They choose not to be. That's not their fault necessarily. I don't mean that this is a conscious choice. They're programmed from childhood, so on and so forth. But there are others who are doing good work, and I'm going to focus on those people. So don't hate me too much for being judgmental, because the end result of me being judgmental is I want to help people more. And I want to help helpful people. I want to help the leaders and the confident and the role models to have a bigger impact, so more of them can be created. The people who impress me, there are a lot of them out there, the people I respect. I want them to have louder voices. I want them to have greater control, bigger influence. So that's what I'll be trying to do. So that's my thoughts for 2020, from depressed to slightly optimistic. And like I said, if there's any way I can help you be even better than you are, all you have to do is let me know how, and I'll do my best. Have yourselves a great Christmas, New Year's, or whatever it is by the time this is released. And I'll see you again soon. Cheers.